Hello and welcome back everyone to our next episode in our Clubs and Days series. We are getting right towards the end at the moment, coming in with the number 2 team on the ladder from 2025, the Melbourne Demons. And today I am joined by my co-host Mel. Mel, how are you going?
I'm good, and I'm excited to be talking about Melbourne Demons. This was a really impressive club last season. I mean, we wrote in our 2025 Melbourne Demons preview on Substack. You can go have a read of last year's if you'd like. But we wrote that setting the bar for 2025 for them was a return to finals. And they did that. They definitely did that. What looks like it would have been a down season for Melbourne, potentially, after a disappointing 2024, they really turned it around last year. And they finished second on the ladder. And I guess also, very importantly, they looked like the only team capable of beating North Melbourne, who went undefeated last season. So Melbourne really finished with a bang.
Yeah, that prelim final was actually incredible by Melbourne. They really threatened what looks like an unstoppable team. So it's exciting to see what they'll be able to do this year.
Yeah, they were up at the end of the first 3 quarters. So it was really going Melbourne's way. But yeah, big change coming for Melbourne this season though. For season 2026, they've lost their inaugural coach, Mick Stanier, who led the club for 10 years. And the reins have been handed over to Tim Wilson, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. But he's got a pretty solid team here to work with. They've got elite players across all of their lines, essentially. They're the 5th most experienced team in the league. They're quite young still, like they're average, kind of middling average in age, which is pretty promising. And their team coming into this season is pretty similar to the very dominant team we saw in the against North Melbourne at the back end of last season. There's only been a few changes. So the biggest is that they lost their previous league leading goal kicker in Zanka over to Fremantle. So that's a pretty big blow. But they've picked up Mia Austin from Carlton, who looks like she can probably slot into that key forward role. They've picked up a couple of rookies in the national draft, Jordan Allen and Chloe Baker-West, as well as another couple of rookies. And the other kind of big change here is that they lost Lily Johnson, the defender, over to Fremantle. And Gabby Colvin retired and I had a few other couple delistings. So that's only really a handful of in and outs for Melbourne. Otherwise, fairly set team.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that these are pretty significant outs. I mean, Eden Zanka is a pretty irreplaceable forward. I'm a big fan of Mia Austin, but geez, Zanka's probably the best contested mark in the league.
Yeah.
But yes, I think having a new coach this season is going to be very, very interesting, and it's going to be fascinating to hear what they do in 2026. And to that end, Willow sat down with Shelley Heath to have a little bit of chat about the upcoming season. Let's jump across to that now.
We are very, very lucky to be joined by Melbourne midfielder Shelley Heath today. Shelley, how are you going?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm really, really well, thank you. So last season was a really exciting one for the Ds. Probably did something that most people thought couldn't be done, which has made North Melbourne look beatable at times. That must have given the group a lot of confidence going forward, even if you didn't quite get that win the prelim. It was an incredible game to be at.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was it was a real testament to our group of how much belief we had around being able to compete with the best and go head to head and push them. So disappointing with how it ended, but yeah, still like really, really impressed and really excited of what we can hopefully produce this year.
This off-season's brought a bit of change, and one of those changes is it's the first ever coaching change at the Ds. Inaugural coach Mick Stanier stepped down. How's it been working under the new coach, Tom Wilson? And I guess how's it been with a new coach for the first time ever in the club's history?
Yeah, no, it's been it's exciting. It's an exciting change. I've been coached by Mick since I was 18, so I'm 26 now. So it's been a long time of having one coach. So you get a bit familiar with it all. But yeah, it's brought probably new energy around the group, some new excitement, a new voice is always good. As much as everyone loved Mick at the club and how amazing he was as a coach, sometimes those changes are needed, and it's definitely brought new excitement and new fresh start to this group, and he's been really amazing. Brought in a few other coaches. We've got a new Dan Crush. Dan, he is our forward line coach as Sony will be going on maternity leave soon. So yeah, it's been exciting to have a plethora of new coaches come in to the program.
Yeah, fantastic. And I will say that as a Geelong supporter myself, I'm actually very happy for the coaching change. But new coaches sometimes mean magnets get thrown around a bit. And one of the magnet moves that has proved very successful in recent seasons is your own move into the midfield from defence. Can you give us a little bit of insight into your own career progression and taking that next step into joining what is a pretty formidable midfield group?
Yeah, so playing defence since I kind of came in there, so it was feeling good down there, and it was exciting when Mick brought it up to me how he wanted to start me as that, I guess, defensive mid role. So it didn't change too much of my defensive mindset. It just meant I could probably roam around the ground a bit more and use my strengths with a bit more freedom. But yeah, playing with the likes of Olivia Purcell, Tyler Hanks, Kate Hall, Megan Simon, who rolls through there, definitely helped improve my game. And I think just continue to grow even as a so-called veteran of the team. I think being able to be uncomfortable but grow as a player and as a person in new positions was really exciting. And I not sure what Tom wants for me as of yet. He's still figuring everything out, but yeah, I would be more than happy to continue to play there and continue to develop my role as that defensive mid player.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think it probably also speaks to the versatility that you've got in that midfield group. You had players like Paxi Paxman, Sinead Goldrick, and even Eliza McNamara were also rotating around through that sort of half back line. You've obviously said that you're not quite sure what Tom said so far, but has that sort of continued with sort of everyone, I guess, cross-training a little bit, sort of learning new positions just to make sure everyone can sort of play a role as needed?
Yeah, he's been really big on everyone be able to be a bit more versatile. So there's been definite like girls training in different positions just to help out, whether he can see whether in some games we might need someone to roll into another position, and it's also just going to help progress our careers and not get stuck in that one mindset of just playing in that one position and being a one-trick pony. So yeah, he's been really good at moving the girls around to be able to play more than one position, which definitely helps if the team is versatile. So when injuries can occur, if anything happens, we still have the full confidence of plenty of other players who can play in those positions as well.
Yeah, of course. And speaking of injuries, you've already mentioned her as one of your great teammates in the midfield, but Liv Purcell has been a player who unfortunately has suffered quite a lot of injuries throughout her career, but is one of the D's absolute best when fit and firing. How's she progressing from her ACL injury that she did last year? And is she someone that we will hopefully be able to see early in the season, or is it a bit more of a slow build up for Liv?
Percy, she is back in full training.
Excellent.
Not sure if it's been announced, but a couple of weeks ago she passed all her markers and passed all her testing, and it is just so great to have her in there. The contested beast she is, and it really makes my life easier. She gets in and under, wins the ball, and I can use my speed on the outside to help her out. So I think having her back in the team is a definite boost up for us.
We also talked a bit about versatility, and there are a few better than your inspirational skipper, Kate Hall. I mean, leading goal kicker for the team from the midfield, it must be incredible to play alongside a player like her.
Yeah, she is. She's phenomenal. Sometimes you have to remember that you're actually training and you're not watching her just tear up the training track. So, no, it is good to, again, be helped and guided through the midfield by her, but also to watch her up forward when needed and help the younger girls in our forward line with leading patterns. And the way she goes is, she's definitely one of the best, if not the best in the competition at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned sort of those young players in the forward line. You've got a few sort of veterans. We know how good Taylor Harris is, but, some really young, exciting players coming through like Molly O'Hare and Maggie Marnie. I mean, learning off Kate Hall must be fantastic, but how's that sort of young group going in the forward line at the moment?
Yeah, they're good. They are. They're real breath of fresh air. They bring a lot of energy. And then just, the new slang that comes about that when you get older you don't really know about, but they always introduce you to. Yeah, they're all they're bundles of energy, bundles of joy. Even Geordie Allen and Chloe Baker West coming in, they're again they're quite different, but the knowledge they bring of the game and the energy they bring around, it really helps bring the older girls, make them feel a bit younger again, and it makes it real light and fluffy around at training, which is always good.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. And you mentioned those two draftees. You also picked up Lauren Clifton from the Sandpool W, who's apparently one of the best kicks going around. Has that been something that's been on show in the preseason so far?
Yeah, she has. Yeah, she's got a wonderful skill set, and she's fitting really well with the team. Coming in late in the preseason, but it feels like she's been there from the start of the year. So yeah, she's fitting in really well, and she's just a great footballer, but an even better human. So it's really, yeah, they've done well there.
That's wonderful to hear. And I guess it's a tough team to break into, but are there any early season debuts on the cards for these sorts of players?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like watching Geordie Allen, the way she trains, her footy IQ, her kicking, the way she gets into space. Yeah, you watch it back and you think she's a natural grown footballer. I can tell she's been playing since she would have been about 4, I think. So wouldn't be surprised if those girls get a run quite early in the season. But yeah, you just never know. But she's definitely caught my eye at training. So we'll see how she goes for the rest of the preseason.
Fantastic. That's wonderful to hear for a young player like that. Another player who was a lot younger than I kind of realized when they moved over to the club from Carlton is Mia Austin. Come over from Carlton, already won their leading goal kicker rather, 2 years at just 22 years old, but has pretty big shoes to fill in replacing Eden Zanker, who's probably been one of the best goal kickers your club's ever seen. How's she sort of fitted in, and has there kind of been any talk about like replacing Eden Zanker, or is it more just, she'll fit in and do what she can do?
Yeah, not so much, replacing, but she has been a great asset to the team. Talia will probably hate me saying this, but she's outmarked Talia a few times. Mia's got an incredible vertical leap, and she's very strong. So a much for a likeness with Ito, so it's been a nice little interchange, but they definitely have different strengths and bring different things in. But yeah, she is a phenomenal forward and has a great mark on her at the moment. So yeah, it feels not too different from Eden.
Yeah, that's great that you've still got that really good marking target. Not that Taylor Harris isn't, of course, but you mentioned Talia Gillard, who unfortunately is apparently getting beaten in the preseason. But the Melbourne defense is something that we've always known has been a really, really strong point for the team, and we expect nothing less. But last year was really interesting because there were a couple of new names in that backline that emerged. A couple that I want to bring up are Saray Taylor, who kind of really grabbed her opportunity after bouncing her through a few lists, and Layla Ebert as well, who kind of went from the injury replacement player to first team almost immediately. It must have been really nice to see, players not just step in, but step up like that.
Yeah, it was. Saray has been, fighting away, taking her time, but always was a team first, like never complained, was always wanting to do what was best for the team, training hard and just like waiting for opportunity. And became a real key cog in our backline last year. She worked really hard on her game. Not even like she hadn't played too many games, even through the VFLW. So to see her grow and grow again this season, she's going to be super exciting to watch. She works with Talia in the back line, and Layla just came in and just like took everything with her that was thrown at her, and she's again grown so much. Probably feels more comfortable within the team after being there for a season. So she's been flourishing in that back line, and working under Maeve and Lampy has probably definitely helped improve and elevate her game. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see them and see what they can do this season.
Yeah, beautiful. And you mentioned Maeve Chaplin, who was a very well-deserving All-Australian last year. We also noticed that she did play a little bit through that midfield. Did you feel like she was just sort of pushing in on your space a little bit there?
No, not at all. Maeve's a very strong competitor and super strong contested ball winner. So there would be times where we probably needed her strength to run through and help shake up that midfield. But it never felt like he was stepping on toes. We're both very much team first players. So anything to do that gives us a bit of an edge over the other team is something that we look to explore. So no, she's a great, but she loves her halfback role, I will say. So don't know how much she wants to spend in the midfield. She's a phenomenal intercept defender. So we would probably really miss her back down there if she got full-time mid-minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess, and one other question I do want to ask, just more from that, trying to get the competitive advantage. Have you and Alyssa Bannon ever done a side-by-side sprint? And if so, who has won?
We have it for a while now. Because I don't think she wants to race me anymore.
Oh, yeah.
There was times in the start. So when she first came in, I think it was pretty even, and yeah, I think the last time, as the record shows, with our high speed, I would say it's been me for a little bit, which I hate saying, but no, yeah, we're both very competitive, very quick, so it's been nice to be able to push each other in the speed domain. But with Aoife coming in, she's got us both pipped, so now I have more competition to try and get that top spot back.
That's fantastic to hear. And yeah, with Aoife, I guess like a lot of the Irish girls, I'm guessing come over and seemed like a bit of a natural. Does she sort of have a position that she seems to play, or you just sort of just go and run as fast as you can and see what happens?
Yeah, so she did. I think she played forward for in Gaelic, and they typically they translate quite well to the positions they played. Like Goldie plays back for Gaelic, so she's back with us. Blaheen was through the midfield, so she played through the middle and the wing. So I think she would probably suit Aoife would suit the forward line, but yeah, she's agile, quick, shifty, just really impossible to tackle at the moment. So she's going to be very, very exciting to watch when she gets her opportunity.
Yeah, sounds like a nightmare having to line up on that and Kate Hoare and all the other players that you've got up there. I think we'll probably leave it there, but the question we do love to ask at the end is which player so far this preseason has really been tearing up the track, looks set for a massive breakout year in 2026 and is really catching the eye at the moment?
Or cards go past Liv, I think she'll have a phenomenal season off the back of, missing out last season and knowing how hungry she is. She's always an asset. But one of the younger ones, probably Maggie Marnie, she's come in and she's gone all guns blazing. She has had a phenomenal start to the preseason. It's just we call her a little rat dog. She just gets in and up in everyone's faces, and she's worked really hard. Those two I would definitely look out for this season.
A couple of excellent names there. Shelley Heath, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Geez, that was a really interesting interview. What did you make of that, Mel?
Yeah, I mean, great to hear from Shelley Heath first and foremost. Very fantasy relevant player at the back of last season, and also just a great AFLW player. The key thing I took out of that is that it sounds like both Aoife Horrisk and Jordan Allen are likely to make an impact early. I just love that we've got a Jordan Allen that's spelled exactly the same way as the other Jordan Allen. What are the odds of that?
Yeah,
but
there's a real Ella Smith
Melbourne
about
rookies.
it all. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a defender and a forward rookie from Melbourne who could be out on round one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, always exciting to have a debutant. And look, from the sounds of the the match simulations that we've seen so far in the practice match, I think they have performed quite well. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And I also love that. I think this is the most names that anyone's ever dropped in an interview with a Melbourne player. I think the reins of Mick Stanier being that tight-lipped, team first focus is loosening a little, which is exciting to see from us trying to find out information. So that's been fun.
Yes, that is what we want from our interviews.
But we have heard a few snippets here about some of the players from the Melbourne Demons, and one of them was the player that's top of your fantasy list for 2026.
Yes, Maeve Chaplin, the top 5 defender from 2025. She is priced at 74.2, and I expect her to pretty much stay within the top 5 defenders in 2026, which we've spoken about on our defenders episode as well. Couple of reasons from that. Her average jumped up massively in 2024 thanks to getting a bit more midfield time. Although, by the sounds of the interview, it sounds like she does prefer the back line. So I'm not sure that we're going to see much increase in her scoring this season, but expecting her to remain up there in the 70s as just an elite defender. She's got a fantastic ceiling. She had a score of 120 when she was playing in the midfield, but a few weeks earlier when she was more in the back line and had no CBAs, she got 109. So 109 as largely defender role is still pretty good ceiling. That's what we'll take. And she plays such an important role for the Demons for that counter-attack, and her strength and speed out of defence, it reflects the fact that she gained the most meters at Melbourne. I can see her doing this again this season. I think she's a potentially not as much upside, but a really strong defender pick.
Yeah, I think when you get a defender with that sort of a ceiling, it's hard to look past. So definitely a strong one to consider this season. How about your number 2 pick?
Yes, it's the unfortunate Olivia Purcell, averaging 89 as a midfielder. poor thing, she's not had a good few seasons. So we know that she's a talented young midfielder, but we haven't really been able to see her do her best in a while because she fractured her cheekbone in 2024, which, hurt, like that looks terrible. And then she came back into the season for 4 games in 2024 where she averaged 71.3. Then we only got 2 games out of her last season because she ruptured her ACL. In those 2 games, though, she did put up 123, which is a huge score. But that's 6 games over 2 years, I think, that we've seen from her. Also, so not really, really hoping that she can play out a full season because I think she's got a lot of great potential. The question, though, is that with a fit Olivia Purcell coming back in and hopefully playing the whole season, what does that do for her role and the CBA takers? We saw last season Shelley Heath, Kate Hoare and Tyler Banks were the 3 main CBA takers at the back end of the season. Is Liv Purcell going to go straight back into there? I'm not too sure. If Maeve spends more time in the back line, does that free up Liv Purcell straight back into the midfield in the CBAs, which would be good for her scoring?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that she'll jump straight back in there. I know you said she played 2 games last season, but I would argue she played 1.5 because I'm pretty sure she did that ACL at the end of the second quarter and still managed to put up a 70 score, which is just unbelievable.
Yes, that's right, actually. It was like she was on for such a big score if she played the game out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think a very, very interesting one. I imagine she'll jump in. The question is, I suppose, who is it at the expense of? Because they have so many midfield options in there. And yeah, sorry, we're just realising that Tyler Banks, not Tyler Hanks. I was going, that's not right, but I don't want to call it out.
Tyler Banks, okay.
Yeah.
Well, nope, I can't see her running around with the footy anytime soon.
No, I imagine Tyler Banks isn't going to get any of these CBAs, but Tyler Hanks is going to be in there quite a lot. Shelley Heath and Kate Hoare were excellent last season, and I have no reason to think that they won't be given another opportunity through the midfield again. So it does create a bit of a congested CBA rotation there. I mean, we saw Megan Fitzsimmons running through there a little bit last season, but to be honest, otherwise it was a fair drop off to the next player.
Yeah, it really was.
The big question that I have on my mind is we're looking at her priced at 19 or 89 based on the 99 she put up in those 2 games last season before the discount. Before that, her best average is much, much lower. It's in the 70s. So my question is it 2 big games or are we paying up for someone who's overpriced?
Well, we'll have to watch and wait.
Well, yeah.
I think she does have that risk of like coming in fairly well priced, but I think she's also one of the most kind of exciting options at Melbourne because they have a lot of fairly well-priced players.
I do think it's such an interesting one, which we have no idea really, is that she could hit that form that she had last season straight off the bat and be an incredible value option, average over 100. I can see that potential. But at the same time, you know, if she just goes back to what she's been doing in previous seasons, which again have all been impacted, maybe we haven't seen the best of her.
Big swing.
She's
either going to be 20 points below or 20 points above her average.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's
based on those 2.
I think it's a big decision and something we've got to watch very, very closely over the next few weeks. Anyway, let's jump on to your number 3 pick in the midfield, who is someone that I cut you off on before.
Yes. So Megan Fitzsimmons, she started off season 10 with 43% CBAs. So she played a fair bit in the midfield in 2024 and then she kept that CBA role in 2025 while also playing forward and kicking 5 goals. So she's had a pretty good last season. I think she brings fantastic defensive pressure into the forward line and she was leading for tackles inside 50 at Melbourne and 5th for tackles overall. So, and actually in a game against Gold Coast last season, she put up a whopping 15 tackles for 124 fantasy average. So that was a absolutely huge ceiling for her. And this was in a game that she wasn't really in the midfield. She only had 11% CBAs. There is a little bit of a risk here because Megan Fitzsimmons is listed as a midfield. And if she's going to be playing a bit more in the forwards, that's potentially not exactly what we want here. But she can really lead Melbourne for tackles overall when she needs to. She's got that defensive pressure whether she's in the midfield or the forward line. She came away with the 4th most coaches' votes over a 15-game season. Like she's got the energy, she's got the fitness. I really think that this is a season that we potentially see her go even further. I mean, she's only 23 and she's already played 60 games. I think that whether she spends more time in the midfield, question mark with Olivia Purcell coming back, or if she's just being a bit more of a mid-forward rotation, it's very hard to see what we're going to get with the new coach here, where Tim Wilson will kind of get the most out of her. But I think that she is a real big one to watch because she's ripe for a bit of a breakout.
Yeah. I think this is a pick on natural growth as a young player. And honestly, there's been some times where she looks phenomenal as a player. So I can absolutely see that. The big question mark, I guess, is on that role.
Yeah. And is there going to be as many people rotating through the midfield? Does that allow her a sprinkle of time, which will be sufficient, like we've seen in some of those other games last season? Or is she going to kind of be blocked out altogether? Really? I mean, these are two risky picks for 2 and 3 here.
Absolutely. And I think it carries on with pick 4 here.
Yeah, so keeping it high risk, high reward, I've gone with our interviewee, friend of the pod, Shelley Heath here, who is another mid-price madness pick, midfield mid-price madness as well. We saw her have a few CBA rotations in 2024, but then when she moved into that more consistent CBA role last year, her score was fantastic. It kind of jumped up quite a bit there. But we know that baked into that score, it's actually fairly well priced, but there was one game with only 20% game time and a bit of a lower score there. So you could argue that potentially it should be a little bit higher. It sounds like she's been training in the midfield again this preseason based on her interview. So I think this is potentially a little bit of upside from more time in the role and potentially getting rid of some of the lower scores from last season if she's more consistent this year. But I don't know. I think it's hard to go past because she did look so great last season.
Yeah, I think some of those lower scores are absolutely things that should be discounted because do you remember at the start of last season, she had that heart concern and she had to go off at quarter time and she was sitting on 30. So, I mean, games like that, you take out of her average, there's definitely built-in value there. It's just tricky when you have these players that move from being a defender to a midfielder only and suddenly, we're taking someone who's priced at 70, might go 80, I think, is probably the upside here. Is that enough?
It's tricky with Melbourne. They've got a lot of people listed as midfielders. I mean, and then I've gone, continuing on the speculation, because why not? I've gone with new Jordan Allen, the rookie at Melbourne, who's listed as a defender. Although she was drafted as a mid defender, which is hopeful for me that maybe there's some potential here in her midfield time. Based on reading about her offensive game is a standout, and she's known for her outside game and rebounding with speed, which is saying to me sounds great for a bit of a roll on the wing there. If she can get a chance through the midfield or have a go at intercepting off halfback, I reckon she could be putting up some decent points. It sounds like she's likely to start, or the rookie that's most likely to start at Melbourne. I think she could be a good rookie option for the bench.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's definitely a role back there for someone to sort of go alongside Maeve Chaplin in that distributing capacity. This is sort of role that I think there were a couple games last season where Chaplin was pretty closely marked, and it definitely limited their options out there. I think Melbourne's a good side, and they sort of spread the load, but it definitely helps to have someone else back there who can bring pace and run and carry off that back line. So I think as long as she's playing round 1, Jordan Allen would be a great option. Yeah.
Overall, though, tricky side because there was so much growth last season, and now we've got a big unknown for the first time.
Yeah.
Essentially at all since Melbourne with a new coach after 10 years. So,
yeah.
But who have you got for the host special?
Oh, the host special. I'll be honest, this was one of the trickier ones to pick because I feel like there's so many players at the Ds to talk about. I mean, I didn't want to go with Kate Hoare, given the fact that you'd gone through the rest of the midfield, but Kate Hoare is always a relevant name to be considering. But to me, the big question with the Demons this year is what happens with the departure of Eden Zanker in their forward mix. Because Eden Zanker is one of the biggest, stronger forwards in the league. And Mia Austin coming in, great young player, but more of like a lead-up type. And so I guess it leaves a lot on Taylor Harris, in my mind, to be taking these big contested clunks up forward. And if she's not doing that, then I think it's going to really change how they go about scoring. I think we're going to see less sort of long kicks into the forward line that ended up marked, and we're going to see more activity by the small forwards as either like a short kick connector or as a crummer at the bottom of these contests, because, you know, players like Mia Austin, Georgia Gall, or Alyssa Bannon is also pretty good at bringing the ball to ground. I think these are the more likely targets that are not going to be taking contested marks, but they're going to be keeping the ball, you know, on the ground. So I suppose at that point, I'm looking at some of the small forwards in the league, and I was really interested in what Shelley Heath was saying about Maggie Marnie and her improvement that she's seen this offseason. I'm a big rap for Maggie Marnie. I thought there were a lot of times last season where she looked excellent. Her fantasy scores to date have not been that prominent, so I think the highest I saw was a 61. But I think there were some good quarters in there, and I think with a little bit more of a half-forward focus, you know, if they're trying to bring the ball in different ways, she could be that connector. So I'm really excited to see what she can do this year. Priced at $445K, I think there's an upside. I think we could see a sort of a jump up to a 60 average, and if we're lucky. And she's definitely going to be one I monitor through the early parts of this preseason.
Yeah, and player to watch from the interview is a nice little extra point there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Love it when things, you know, wrap up in a nice little bow. That's always nice and convenient. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll also just mention, I'm not going to talk about her at length, but Eliza McNamara is a player that I'm very excited. I feel like she pops up some high scores sometimes. So, you know, depending on how much she gets used on the wing, could be another interesting one to watch. But I think that's going to...
here's me struggling for Melbourne picks, and you're like, oh, here's all the ones I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's anyone who's like screaming value, but there's a lot of players that I'm like, oh, it's just interesting. It's just interesting what might happen. Yeah. Yes.
There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a very interesting practice match to watch.
Yeah, yeah. Which I suppose, listeners, you may have already seen at the point that we're at when this is released. So, you know, hopefully something interesting that we can take from that, and we'll be discussing, I'm sure, in an episode coming up soon.
Yes.
All right. That's going to be a wrap on the Melbourne episode. So thanks for listening in. We are jumping across to some more of the big dogs in our Clubs and Days episode soon. So keep listening out for those. We also have the Substack article on Melbourne Live right now if you want to go and read a little bit more about what we've learned this off-season about the Melbourne Demons and how they're going to play in 2026. I would recommend you have a read of that one. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Bye.